Welcome to Andre's Insight, where clarity meets curiosity. Today, we're diving deep into something that, well, touches every single one of us: stress and anxiety. We've gathered some really fascinating perspectives on this universal human experience.
That's right. And the goal today is to really understand what stress actually is, how it affects us, fundamentally both in our minds and bodies, and really crucially, to arm you with some practical evidence-based ways to navigate it all more effectively.
Exactly. Our mission today is really to give you actionable insights. Think of it like your personal toolkit for taking a bit more control, maybe making more informed choices about your well-being, and ultimately just gaining a deeper understanding of how you uniquely experience stress. Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. Stress. It feels like such a huge topic these days, but it's a core part of being human, isn't it?
Absolutely. It really is. And while it's something we all experience throughout life, we are seeing, for instance, that teenagers seem to be facing increasing levels. And when you think about it, it makes sense. They're navigating so many pressures, school, social stuff, family dynamics, and of course, the constant presence of social media. It's a lot.
It truly is. And when we feel that kind of weight, our bodies have this amazing automatic response, right? The fight and flight mechanism. Can you sort of walk us through what's happening physically when that kicks in?
Yeah, definitely. So when we perceive a threat, and that could be a real danger or just something our minds interpret as threatening, this ancient survival mechanism activates. Think about it. Your heart starts pounding, maybe you breathe faster, your blood pressure goes up, muscles get tense, your senses might even feel sharper. It's all geared towards giving you this rapid burst of energy for, well, swift action.
Okay, that makes perfect sense for like a sudden crisis, needing to jump out of the way of something. But what happens when this system, this fight or flight, is constantly being triggered by just the ongoing pressures of daily life?
Yeah, and that's really where the challenges start to arise. While that response is incredibly helpful for short-term emergencies,
Yeah.
prolonged activation because of chronic stress can unfortunately have some negative impacts on both our physical and mental health over time. Our
Well,
systems just aren't really designed to be in that high alert state continuously.
right.
It's sort of like keeping your foot jammed on the gas pedal all the time. Eventually, things are going to start to wear out.
So how can we tell then? How can we know if we're tipping over into experiencing too much stress? Are there some key signs, maybe physical or emotional, that we should really pay attention to?
Yeah, there could be quite a range of signals. Physically, you might notice things like um, headaches happening more often, maybe digestive issues cropping up, or changes in your sleep, finding it hard to fall asleep or stay asleep.
Yeah.
Emotionally, you could experience more irritability, perhaps, or just find it harder to concentrate than usual.
Yeah.
It's really important to remember, though, these aren't like definitive diagnoses on their own,
Okay.
but they can be really important clues that stress might be playing a significant role in what you're feeling.
That's a useful way to think about it, Clues. Now, you mentioned earlier, stress isn't always the enemy, right? I've heard that sometimes a certain amount of pressure can actually be good for performance.
That's a really, really important point to clarify. Moderate stress can indeed be helpful. Absolutely. It can sharpen our focus, boost our alertness, which, can be advantageous for certain tasks. Think of it like tuning a guitar string. A little tension gives you the right sound.
Hmm.
But if you tighten those strings way too much, they'll snap. And it's similar with stress. When it becomes excessive, that initial helpful energy can actually backfire. It might lead to feeling shaky, more tension, maybe clouded thinking. It can really get in the way of performing well, both mentally and even verbally sometimes.
Okay, so we've got this internal fight or flight system, but stress also seems so deeply connected to how we interact with the world around us. This brings us to something I think you call the stress interaction model, that interplay between mind, body, environment.
Exactly. This model really highlights that a stress reaction isn't just a simple A to B thing. It's dynamic. It's
Yeah.
this ongoing interaction between what's happening in your mind, how your body's reacting, and the environment you're actually in. Information from the world around you gets filtered through your mind, and it's that interpretation that then triggers a physical response.
And those things in our environment that seem to kickstart the stress, those are what we call stressors, yeah?
Precisely. Stressors are those external things, or sometimes internal things like thoughts, that we perceive as potentially stressful. However, and this is such a crucial insight, our interpretation of those stressors is incredibly significant.
Right.
The very same event, say, giving a presentation, can be viewed completely differently by two people. And that leads to dramatically different stress levels.
That makes so much sense. What one person finds challenging but manageable, another might find completely overwhelming. So it's not just the event itself, but our internal landscape, like what's going on in our heads about it, that really shapes the experience.
Absolutely. Our imagination, our thoughts, they have a profound influence on our stress response.
Hmm.
Sometimes, our thoughts alone can generate physical symptoms, even without an immediate external threat. Just thinking about a difficult conversation you need to have can make you feel tense, right?
Oh, definitely. The anticipation can be worse than the thing itself sometimes.
Exactly. It's that mind-body connection and powerful action.
And it can turn into a bit of a feedback loop too, can it? Where the feeling of stress actually creates more stress.
Yes, precisely. That's the self-perpetuating cycle. It's
Yeah.
like, say you notice muscle tension in your neck because you're stressed. That physical sensation can then send signals back to your brain, increasing feelings of anxiety, which then might lead to even more muscle tension.
Ah, yeah.
It's this reinforcing cycle that can be really hard to break without some conscious effort.
So basically, when we encounter something potentially stressful, our own unique internal filter kicks in. Our thoughts, beliefs, memories, feelings, past experiences, how we interpret things, even our basic personality.
Right.
All of this shapes how we actually experience that particular stressor.
Precisely. All those individual characteristics act like a lens, a lens through which we perceive and react to whatever stressor comes along. And recognizing this intricate interaction is really the foundational first step in learning how to manage stress more effectively.
Okay, so we've got a much better handle now on what stress is, how it works, how it affects us. Now, let's move into some actionable strategies. Maybe start with some general relaxation methods. Those kinds of accessible techniques we can use almost anywhere. Deep breathing always comes up first. What makes that such a powerful tool?
Deep breathing is just so effective because it directly influences our nervous system. It helps to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the part responsible for the rest and digest response,
Mhm.
basically. The opposite of fight or flight.
The calming system.
Exactly. Taking slow, deep, deliberate breaths can help lower your heart rate, reduce that muscle tension, and just create an overall sense of calm. It's almost like hitting a physiological reset button.
Okay. Another common one is visualization or daydreaming. I can see how mentally escaping could feel relaxing, but you mentioned maybe a word of caution there earlier.
Yes, the connection between our thoughts and feelings is definitely powerful. Creating a calm, pleasant mental image, like a peaceful beach or forest, can absolutely evoke feelings of relaxation. However, it's important that these daydreams remain sort of controlled and don't become a form of avoidance.
Ah,
If we're constantly using daydreaming to escape dealing with responsibilities or problems, the stress from those unaddressed issues will likely just build up in the long run.
yeah.
But brief, controlled visualization can be incredibly helpful when you're feeling overwhelmed or stuck. A short mental retreat can provide calm and help you return to the situation with a clearer head.
And the last one in this general category, simply enjoying natural surroundings. There's something about being in nature, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. The research on this is pretty consistent. Spending time in nature has significant benefits for our mental well-being. It can lower stress hormone levels, improve mood, promote a general sense of relaxation. Even a short walk in a park or just sitting outside watching the trees can make a noticeable difference.
Okay, let's delve a bit deeper then into more structured relaxation techniques. Meditation often comes up. What's actually happening in our bodies when we practice meditation regularly?
Meditation has some really remarkable effects on our physiology. Studies have shown it can actively counteract that stress response. It leads to this fascinating set of beneficial changes. You might see a decrease in oxygen consumption, a slower, more regular breathing rate, reduced heart rate, lower blood pressure, even decreased levels of blood lactate, which is often linked with stress. And interestingly, brainwave activity shifts too. With an increase in alpha waves, those are linked to relaxed alertness.
Wow, that sounds like the complete opposite of the fight or flight state, like a rest and recharge mode for the whole system.
Exactly. It's often described as a hypometabolic state, basically a general quieting down of the sympathetic nervous system, the one that drives fight or flight. It's like our body's natural way of hitting pause and recovering.
So how do we actually do it? How do we tap into this natural relaxation response through meditation? What are the key steps?
Well, the core principles are actually pretty straightforward. First, find a quiet place where you can minimize distractions as much as possible. Then you gently focus your attention on a single point. This could be a word, a sound, maybe a short phrase, or often just the sensation of your own breath going in and out. The really crucial element, though, is maintaining what's called a passive attitude. Your mind will wander. That's totally normal.
Right, that happens to me all the time.
Yeah, everyone. The goal isn't to stop thinking, but just to gently, patiently bring your attention back to your focus each time you notice it's drifted, without judgment. And regular practice is key. Ideally, aiming for maybe 2 sessions a day, perhaps 15 to 20 minutes each.
I've heard that being consistent with the time and place can be helpful too. Why is that?
That's absolutely right. Meditating at roughly the same time and in the same spot each day can actually help create a conditioned relaxation response. Your body and mind start to associate that specific time and place with feeling calm, making it potentially easier to drop into that meditative state more quickly over time.
Ah, interesting. Like Pavlov's dogs, but for relaxation.
Sort of, yeah. Some people even find they start to anticipate that feeling of relaxation as their scheduled time approaches.
And what are the bigger picture benefits, the longer term gains from sticking with a regular meditation practice?
Well, consistent meditation can be a really powerful tool for managing that accumulated background stress we all carry. It helps cultivate a greater overall sense of calm and inner balance. And that, in turn, enhances your ability to cope more effectively with the day-to-day stressors that inevitably pop up. While, maintaining that passive attitude and fitting it into a busy schedule might feel challenging at first, the technique itself is fundamentally quite simple and accessible.
Okay, another technique, this one focusing more directly on the physical side, is progressive deep muscle relaxation. How does that work?
Right, so this technique takes a more direct, sort of physical route to relaxation. It involves systematically tensing specific muscle groups, holding that tension briefly, and then deliberately releasing it. You work through different muscle groups throughout your body. The underlying idea is that by consciously creating and then releasing tension, you help your body become more aware of where it's holding tension, and you progressively learn to let it go.
So, by intentionally feeling the tightness and then that contrasting feeling of release, we're basically teaching our body what true relaxation feels like in the muscles.
Precisely. And what's really fascinating is that mind-body connection works both ways here. Just like cultivating mental calm and meditation can lead to physical relaxation, engaging in this deep muscle relaxation in the body can also promote a quieter, more relaxed state of mind.
Ah, that interplay again.
Exactly. It's reinforcing.
I've seen instructions for this sometimes suggest saying the word relax each time you release a muscle group. Is there a specific benefit to adding that verbal cue?
Yeah, that can be a helpful addition. Saying relax as you consciously release the tension can help further reinforce that feeling of letting go. Over time, it can contribute to developing a conditioned relaxation response, linking the word itself to the physical sensation. It's like a simple verbal anchor.
Okay, let's shift gears a little bit now and talk about something we do every day, eating. How does what we eat influence our stress levels? We know good nutrition is vital for health generally, but how does it specifically tie into managing stress?
Well, good nutrition basically provides the essential fuel and building blocks our bodies and minds need to function at their best. When we're consistently giving ourselves the right nutrients, our systems are just inherently better equipped to handle the demands of stress and to recover from its effects. So a balanced diet, one that's mindful of healthy fat, provides adequate calories for your energy needs, includes plenty of fiber that forms a really strong foundation for stress resilience.
Are there any particular foods or substances we should be maybe more aware of regarding their impact on stress?
Definitely. It's really wise to pay attention to how specific things affect you individually. For some people, for example, caffeine can be a major trigger for anxiety and jitteriness.
Yeah, I feel that sometimes.
Right. And it's also interesting to look at different perspectives. There's an ancient Indian approach, for instance, that categorizes foods into 3 groups: sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. It suggests they have different effects on our alertness, energy, and disposition. Sattvic foods are seen as pure, wholesome, rajasic as stimulating, tamasic as heavy, maybe processed. Now, while that's a traditional framework, it highlights this core idea that food can have a tangible impact on our mental state.
That's fascinating. What about those common cravings we get for comfort foods when we're stressed, like carbs or sweets? Is there a physiological reason for that?
There's some interesting research, yeah. It suggests that consuming small amounts of carbohydrates, particularly on their own, might have a calming effect for some people. This could be linked to influencing levels of serotonin in the brain. That's a neurotransmitter tied to feelings of well-being.
Ah,
On the other hand, protein tends to promote alertness and focus. So the key seems to be finding a healthy balance of protein and carbohydrates. And also being mindful of limiting unhealthy fats, which can often lead to feeling sluggish.
It can be so tempting, though, can it? To reach for quick fixes like alcohol or maybe sugary snacks when feeling overwhelmed. What are the downsides of relying on those long term?
It is tempting, absolutely. But while substances like alcohol, maybe tranquilizers, or even marijuana might offer a temporary sense of relief, they carry a significant risk of dependence. And crucially, they can actually hinder our long-term ability to manage stress effectively because they stop us from developing healthier coping skills.
Right, they become a crutch.
Exactly. They can prevent us from learning sustainable ways to deal with the underlying stress. Plus, for example, heavy marijuana use has been linked in some studies to decreased motivation. Relying on these substances can create a cycle that doesn't really solve the root problem and can even create new ones.
Okay, another really crucial lifestyle factor, exercise. We all know it's good for us, but how does regular physical activity specifically help us cope with stress?
Oh, exercise offers a huge wealth of benefits for stress management. It improves our general physical health, making us more resilient overall. That's foundational. It also strengthens our cardiovascular system, which helps counteract the strain chronic stress can put on our heart and blood vessels. And there's growing evidence suggesting exercise can positively impact our immune system too, potentially making us less susceptible to getting sick when stressed.
We often hear about different kinds of exercise, like strength training versus cardio. Are both helpful for stress?
Yes, definitely. Both offer distinct advantages. Exercise is focused on building strength and muscle tone, things like calisthenics, isometrics, stretching acknowledgement. They improve physical resilience and flexibility. Endurance exercises, the aerobic stuff like running, cycling, swimming, even brisk walking, those are particularly effective for cardiovascular health.
Yeah.
And they also have significant positive impact on stress levels, partly through releasing endorphins and improving mood.
And how much of that aerobic exercise do we generally need to aim for to really get those stress-busting benefits?
Well, to achieve what's called an aerobic training effect, the kind that really boosts heart health and helps with stress, the exercise should generally raise your heart rate to about 75% of your maximum. A simple rule of thumb to estimate your max heart rate is 220 minus your age.
Okay, got it. So consistency is really the name of the game here, isn't it? For exercise to be a real tool.
Absolutely. Developing a regular exercise plan is crucial. Aiming for at least 3 sessions a week is a good baseline. Try to establish a consistent schedule. And don't forget the practical stuff. Include time for a proper warm-up and cool-down. Have the right gear. Start gradually and build up. Tracking progress can be motivating, rewarding yourself, maybe finding a workout buddy for support. These things help make it sustainable. And anticipating potential roadblocks helps too.
Great tips. Okay, now let's shift focus again, this time to the power of our minds, specifically our beliefs. Our belief system seems to have a massive impact on how we interpret events and experience stress. Can you explain this idea of irrational beliefs?
Yes, our underlying beliefs really act like filters, shaping how we see the world. Irrational beliefs are typically rigid, unrealistic, and they often lead directly to negative emotions and hinder effective coping. They're kind of like distorted lenses that skew our view of reality in unhelpful ways.
Can you give some common examples? What kind of irrational beliefs might contribute to stress and anxiety?
Sure, some really common ones include the belief that you must have the approval of basically everyone you meet, or the idea that you need to be perfectly competent and achieve great things in everything you do to feel worthwhile.
Wow, that sounds exhausting.
It is. Others include the belief that people who do wrong things must be severely punished, or the notion that things are absolutely catastrophic if they don't go exactly the way you want them to. And also the belief that your unhappiness is entirely caused by external factors, meaning you have no control over it.
Those sound like incredibly demanding, almost impossible standards to live by. I can definitely see how holding on to those would create a lot of stress.
They absolutely do. Another really prevalent one is excessive worry about potential future problems, catastrophizing about things that haven't happened and might never happen. This can create this constant background hum of anxiety and really limit a person's ability to just enjoy the present moment.
There's a technique I've heard of, the ABC method, that helps connect these beliefs to our stress. How does that framework work?
The ABC method is a really practical tool for analyzing specific stressful situations. A stands for the activating event, the situation or trigger. B represents your beliefs about that event, especially any underlying irrational beliefs influencing your interpretation. And C is the consequence, the emotional and behavioral outcome that results from your beliefs about the event, not directly from the event itself.
Ah, okay, so it helps you see the link.
Exactly. By breaking down a stressful situation like this, you can start to pinpoint how your specific irrational beliefs are directly contributing to your feelings of stress or anxiety in that moment.
So once we've identified these unhelpful beliefs, what can we actually do about them? How can we change them?
Well, the first crucial step is to actively challenge them. This means engaging in a rational debate with yourself, questioning the validity and the helpfulness of that belief. Writing down your arguments against the irrational belief can be really effective.
Yeah.
It forces you to think logically and articulate why it isn't necessarily true or useful.
So it's like putting our own negative thoughts on trial, examining the evidence.
In a way, yes. You're looking at the evidence for and against. Another powerful technique is to actively try to disprove the belief through action. For example, if you strongly believe you'll fail at something new, even if you've never tried it, make an effort to try it. Even a small success can directly challenge and weaken that belief.
Beyond specific beliefs, are there broader patterns of negative thinking that often fuel stress?
Oh, absolutely. There are several common thinking patterns, often called cognitive distortions, that significantly contribute. These include things like all-or-nothing thinking, seeing everything in black and white extremes, overgeneralization, taking one negative event and assuming it means everything is bad, mental filtering, focusing only on the negatives and ignoring positives, discounting the positive, mind reading, assuming you know what others think negatively about you, fortune telling, predicting negative outcomes, magnification or minimization, blowing negatives out of proportion and shrinking positives, emotional reasoning, I feel anxious, therefore the situation must be dangerous, using rigid should and must statements, labeling yourself or others negatively, and personalization, blaming yourself excessively for things outside your control.
Wow, that's quite a list. It sounds like our minds can sometimes be our own worst enemies, creating unnecessary drama. What are some practical ways we can start to correct these faulty thinking patterns?
Well, the first step is always awareness, just becoming more conscious of when you're falling into these patterns. Once you can identify them, you can begin to actively challenge those thoughts. Ask yourself, what's the actual evidence for this thought? What's the evidence against it? Try to consciously reframe negative thoughts into more balanced, realistic perspectives. If you notice all or nothing thinking, deliberately look for the shades of gray, the possibilities in between the extremes.
Now, stress inoculation training, that sounds really proactive, like mentally preparing for battle almost. How does that work?
That's a great way to put it. Stress inoculation training is a method that combines relaxation skills with developing and using positive coping self-statements. It's designed to help you manage stress more effectively in situations you know likely to be challenging, predictable stressors. It usually involves 3 phases. First is preparation, learning about stress, identifying your triggers, building coping skills. Second is skills acquisition and rehearsal, actively practicing your coping skills and self-statements, often through imagining the stressful situation. And third is application, actually using your learned skills in the real-life stressful situations.
So it's not just about learning to relax, but also about consciously crafting what we tell ourselves during those tough moments.
Exactly. A key part is developing short, personalized, easy-to-remember positive self-statements for each phase. These act as guides for your thoughts and actions. For example, during preparation, I can make a plan for this.
Right.
When confronting the stressor, okay, just take it one step at a time. I can handle this. And if you start feeling overwhelmed, hold on, take a deep breath. I can regain control.
It sounds like mental rehearsal is a big part of it. Can we practice this even before the stressful situation actually happens?
Absolutely. Visualization is a key component. You mentally walk through the stressful scenario, picturing yourself successfully using your coping skills, maybe deep breathing, and reciting your positive self-statements. This mental practice builds confidence and really gives you a valuable head start when the actual situation arises.
Our personalities also seem to play a role here. How does our individual personality type influence how we experience stress?
Personality definitely influences how we perceive situations and, consequently, the stress we feel. One helpful framework comes from Carl Jung's theory of psychological types. It looks at preferences along 4 dimensions. Introversion versus extroversion, where you direct your energy. Sensing versus intuition, how you prefer to take in information. Thinking versus feeling, how you tend to make decisions. And judging versus perceiving, how you prefer to live your outer life, more structured or more flexible.
So someone who prefers introversion might find big social gatherings more draining or stressful than someone who leans towards extroversion.
That's a classic example, yes. Understanding your own preferences across these dimensions can offer valuable insights into your potential stress triggers and your natural coping styles. For instance, someone preferring sensing might find highly abstract tasks stressful, while an intuitive might feel bogged down by too much detail. A judging type might feel stressed by lack of closure or control, whereas a perceiving type might feel stressed by too much rigidity or fixed plans.
I've also heard about the type A personality being linked to stress. What are the main characteristics there?
Right. The type A behavior pattern is often described as having high levels of competitiveness, a strong sense of time urgency, always feeling rushed, and sometimes a tendency towards impatience or even hostility. Now, the direct link between type A and specific health issues is complex and still debated in research. But individuals showing these tendencies often do report experiencing higher levels of day-to-day stress. Recognizing these patterns in yourself can be useful, as it raises awareness of potentially stress-inducing behaviors that you can then work on modifying using various stress management techniques.
Time management, that seems like another really practical area that can make a big difference to stress levels. How does getting better control of our time help?
Effective time management can significantly reduce stress because it creates a sense of control and accomplishment. Both are powerful stress buffers. Setting clear goals is really fundamental here. Establishing long-term aims, intermediate steps, and short-term daily or weekly tasks gives direction and helps you prioritize what's truly important.
Are there particular ways to manage time that work best for reducing stress, like daily lists versus hourly schedules?
Yeah, there are a couple of general approaches people find helpful. One is the classic daily to-do list, often with priorities marked, like A, B, C. This works well if you need flexibility. Another approach is a more structured hourly schedule, blocking out time for specific activities. The best method really depends on your personality, the nature of your work, how much structure feels good.
But it's not just about packing more in, right? It's also about balance, making sure we're not just working all the time.
Absolutely crucial point. Maintaining balance in your schedule is vital for long-term well-being. This means consciously making time for different areas of life.
Hmm.
Physical activity, intellectual pursuits, social connection, career stuff, emotional needs, maybe spiritual practice, whatever nourishes you. And it's important to regularly review and adjust your schedule. Does it still align with your priorities? Does it allow for some needed spontaneity or downtime?
Relationships, another huge piece of the puzzle for managing stress. How do strong, supportive relationships act as a buffer?
Supportive relationships are just an invaluable resource. Having close friends, family, a strong social network, it gives you a sense of belonging, understanding, and practical support. Knowing you have people you can count on, people who get you, can significantly reduce feelings of isolation and lessen the intensity of stressful experiences. Sharing burdens often makes them feel lighter.
But building and keeping those connections takes real effort, doesn't it? It doesn't just happen.
It certainly does. Cultivating strong relationships involves actively initiating contact, engaging in meaningful conversation. Even small talk helps build rapport. It means practicing active listening with real empathy, trying to understand the other person's perspective, and being willing to share parts of yourself appropriately. Self-disclosure. Consistent effort deepens those bonds.
And being able to express our own needs and feelings within those relationships seems key too. That's where assertiveness comes in.
Exactly. Assertiveness, the ability to express your needs, feelings, opinions respectfully and directly is essential for healthy relationships and for managing your own stress. It reduces that internal stress and resentment that builds up when you constantly suppress what you think or feel. It's different from being passive, where you neglect your own needs, and different from being aggressive, where you disregard others. Learning assertive communication is a powerful stress reducer.
Okay, finally, let's touch on life transitions and personal values. Life is full of changes, expected and unexpected. How do these typically impact stress?
Life inevitably involves change, ongoing development, expected milestones, and sudden unexpected transitions. All can be significant sources of stress. Understanding typical adult development stages can sometimes help normalize the feelings associated with predictable changes. Unexpected events, job loss, relationship breakdowns, health issues often trigger strong emotional reactions, frequently involving a sense of loss and major uncertainty. Accepting the need for transition, allowing yourself to feel the emotions, and actively seeking support are crucial coping strategies during these times.
And how do our personal values, the things that are deeply important to us, fit into navigating these challenges and managing stress overall?
Clarifying your personal values is absolutely crucial. Values guide your choices, help you build a strong sense of identity, and provide a compass in life. When your values are unclear or you feel conflicted about them, it can lead to anxiety, indecisiveness, and feeling sort of lost or adrift. So actively reflecting on what's truly important to you, considering influences, examining how you make value-based decisions, this enhances clarity.
What happens if there's a big gap between what we say we value and how we're actually living day to day?
That kind of disconnect, that incongruence, can be a significant, often hidden source of stress and unease. Striving for congruence, where your actions align with your core values, promotes a sense of inner peace and authenticity. Even though sometimes acting on your values might be challenging or uncomfortable in the short term, but actively engaging in activities and relationships that resonate with your values brings deep satisfaction and acts as a powerful buffer against stress.
And you also mentioned spirituality briefly. How can that aspect of life contribute to stress management?
Spirituality, whether it's through organized religion or a more personal sense of connection, meaning, and purpose, can indirectly aid stress management in profound ways. It can foster feelings of faith, hope, inner calm, and peace. It can provide a broader perspective on life's difficulties, a sense of purpose beyond immediate worries, and a feeling of connection to something larger than oneself.
Wow. We have covered such a huge range of topics in this deep dive, really exploring stress and anxiety from so many angles and offering so many evidence-based strategies.
And I think if there's one key takeaway, it's that understanding your own unique stress responses, the physical signs, the mental patterns, that's truly the first and most vital step towards taking more effective control.
Yeah, we really encourage you listening to maybe experiment with some of the different relaxation techniques we talked about. Maybe take some quiet time to reflect on how your own thoughts and beliefs might be influencing your stress levels. And just thoughtfully consider the huge role of those foundational lifestyle factors, nutrition, exercise, those supportive relationships, and that connection to your values and purpose.
And remember, the journey of managing stress is, well, it's deeply personal and it's ongoing. There's no magic finish line. We sincerely hope this exploration has given you some valuable insights and practical tools you can start integrating into your daily life. Tools to help you navigate life's inevitable challenges with, hopefully, greater clarity, more resilience, and a renewed sense of well-being.
So, thinking about everything we've explored today, what stands out most to you? What's maybe the most impactful or perhaps surprising takeaway? We really encourage you to reflect on that. And maybe even identify one small, manageable step you can take this week just to begin applying something you've learned.
Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today. We invite you to continue exploring these ideas, mulling them over, and really considering how they resonate within the context of your own unique life and experiences.